Hello, everyone. It's Nigel Seeley alongside Sean Calvert, the senior handicapper for Betting Weekly Because We Win. Looking ahead now to the Cincinnati tournament. It's the second round matches we're talking about for tomorrow. Sean, how you doing? We had yesterday. I watched that match we gave. We had one bet yesterday. We've got two more bets later on this evening. But Saflin,
This is what annoys me. You know, he was a set. There's a lot of things annoy me. As you know, he was a set and a breakup, wasn't he? Set and 3-2 up with a break against Jarry, and he achieved that when he was serving at about 40-something%. He didn't get over 50% for the match, so he was barely getting a first serve in. He was a set and a breakup against Jarry. It looked like he was breathing extremely heavily, and it was very, very humid. He had one of those tape things on his nose, didn't he? That are supposed to aid your breathing. I don't know what they're like, a strip. I don't know what they're called, but he had one of them on. And yeah, from a set and 3-2. I think how many more games did he win in the match? I think it was 3. I think he won 3 further games in the match. This is a typical thing with tennis players, isn't it? They get into a winning position by playing decent stuff, apart from the service percentage, and then they forget what's got them there. The nerves kick in. They start trying to be safe and trying to play sort of not to lose. And he just racked up the errors, didn't he? Everything. It was error after error after error. And couldn't make a first serve. And it's annoying. He was 1.07 in play.
I didn't want to look what price he hit in play.
He was 1.07.
Oh, Sean, that's not the kind of thing I want to hear. I bet him singly, obviously, and I bet him the double with a parlay with Kalinina, the women. She was even money. And she won very easy in straight sets. And honestly, it was just. I've had a really bad day. I bet a dog, greyhound. I got given a greyhound 2 days ago. It was plus 250, and the dog went off at minus 125, and it was beaten on the line. This morning, I thought.
I mean, I haven't got much sympathy with you on the dogs.
Well, I know. I know a few people in the greyhound world, and so we had a bet on the dogs. That's how I like. I bet a horse yesterday that got beat on the line, and this morning, listen to this. I bet under 2.5 in the women's semi-final of the Sweden match against Spain. 0-0, 80 minutes, over 2.5 cashed. An 80th minute goal, I think that's over.
Well, there was 3 goals in it, was there, in the last 10
minutes? 3
minutes?
goals in the last 10 minutes.
That is unlucky. I've got some sympathy for you there. I'm not sure about the dogs, but
the dog missed the break and got beat by a head. It was 4 lengths. It was 4 lengths behind on the break, but you got the value, and that's all we do. Anyway, you go through these kind of stages where you can't stop betting winners, and sometimes you go through and everything goes against you. And that's Saturday and yesterday, where I just felt like all the gambling gods were looking down on me and saying that this guy's not going to win for you, Nigel. That's how I felt. It was after the day I had. So
I feel like that was the right bet.
Oh, 100%.
I think as long as you're making the right bets, sooner or later that, the winning streak comes, and then, but you're right, it does tend to come in batches, doesn't it? It's like for 3 or 4 days or a week, you feel like you can't do anything wrong. Everything's easy, everything's flying in, and then all of a sudden stuff turns the other way, and it all kind of comes at once. So yeah, it does do that.
It does do that. It's doing that for me at the moment. So hence why I might not be.
Keep your luck to yourself. I don't want it.
Well, listen, we got 2 bets today on the first round. Obviously, we're recording this on Tuesday. We have 2 bets today on Tuesday for the first round matches. Obviously, the rain affected the play yesterday in Cincinnati. Our good friend Dylan, who told us about the weather conditions, we said, "Oh, we're not quite sure," but he was right. And he's
I said it was cooler. He said it was going to be. He said it was going to be cool. I mean, it depends what you call cool. I don't call sort of 28, 29 cool, but he's right. Yeah, it's normally 35, 36, and as I said, it's never going to be that hot this week. So yes, it is cooler, but the humidity, and the fact that it is damp, it just makes conditions slower.
I think he was meaning cool, as in like cool down.
That what I meant?
Yeah, no, that's why we never got it, because we're not down with the kids.
Shouldn't get that.
Anyway. So before we go on to the outright markets and look on the second round matches for Wednesday, the conditions you just mentioned there, obviously it's a lot slower. I saw some of the results yesterday, especially on the women's tour. There was a lot of more clay court players getting wins that you wouldn't have expected on this condition. So are we in for that? Is that going to be a change of the conditions as we go on, or do we expect that to revert back to how we traditionally expect this to be in Cincinnati?
Well, it's this new green set surface, isn't it, as well this year? So we're not sure how that's going to play out. But yes, it started out slow. 91% humidity on Monday, falling to 70% today and 50% on Wednesday. So it should get quicker. It's going to get warmer. The weather, as I said, been rainy. It's going to get a lot warmer by the end of the week. So it should get quicker. It's like Toronto last week. Toronto's centre court was clocked at 41.2 CPI on finals day, which is quick. But that started slow as well, if you remember, didn't it? It's all to do with the sunshine. If there's no sun, it's high humidity, makes the balls fluff up a bit, makes them a bit slow. Everything's just a little bit slower. So it all depends on the weather. If it gets warmer, I think, as Dylan said, it's not going to be usual Cincy warmth, but what I saw yesterday didn't look particularly quick. That Safin and Jarry match, it didn't look fast. It didn't look slow. It looks kind of sort of medium-ish to me, but I would expect it to get quicker as the week goes on, as that weather front kind of moves away and you get a little bit of sunshine.
Let's look at the outright markets. Now, these outright markets might be out of date when this drops live. We're recording this now at 1:46 UK time, and the action starts across in Cincinnati in about 3 hours' time. So you may be able to have a look at the outright market, but let's have a look at it. Carlos Alcaraz is the favourite here at plus 140. Now, obviously, he was a little bit bigger than that before the tournament started. We're going to talk about his match in a minute. Novak Djokovic is also now joint favourite. Djokovic was the favourite. Alcaraz was the second favourite. They have become joint favourites, and they both actually lowered in price, amazingly. Medvedev is 520. Yannick Sinner, obviously, who won last week, is out to $11. He was $7, gone out to $11. Holger-Rune 20, Tsitsipas 30, Casper Ruud 33. How do you? Oh, actually, I'm not. That's not the right prices. Look at that. I'm looking at the wrong draw. I apologise. I'm looking at I'm looking at the Bet Rivers website. I'm looking at the US Open. So I apologise for that. Let's have a look at Cincinnati.
They're probably quite similar at prices, I should think.
Anyway, Novak Djokovic is plus 180. He's still favourite. He's gone up a little bit. Carlos Alcaraz is 220. Medvedev is $6. Yannick Sinner is 10. Stefanos Tsitsipas is 15. Auger-Aliassime, you said, the lean, you expected him to do a lot better against Berrettini. He's 20. And our pick, TFO, was 50-1, now 30-1. I was actually looking at it thinking, why has TFO not moved? He was 50-1 to start. He's beat Greek Sport. He's gone through and he's still 50-1. I was thinking, I don't understand it. But I apologise. I was reading the US Open futures rather than the Cincinnati futures. Half the odds 1-2. Djokovic still market favourite. Alcaraz 220. With these conditions, what you've seen so far, is there any preference to Team Djokovic or Team Alcaraz?
I'm on team neither. I mean, Djokovic hasn't played for a while. Didn't look that convincing at Wimbledon. Obviously, didn't win it either. He's got a good recent record in Cincy, but overall his career it's not fabulous. I just think at this stage of his career, Djokovic is more interested in the majors, and I think he'll just see this. He'll obviously want to go as far as he can, but I don't think he's going to bust a gut to be winning this particular tournament. I think he's just coming here, probably wants to get 3 or 4 matches under his belt, so he's primed up and ready, and not too tired for New York. Alcaraz slightly different, I think. He's obviously disappointed in his performance last week in Canada. I would expect an improvement from him this week, but I wouldn't be backing him. Same as last week. My feeling's not really changed since last week. I'm not sold on Alcaraz winning this tournament. He might do, but these prices are. It's just too short for me. Being as close as it is to a major.
Djokovic first time in America since COVID, and you saw the reaction on the outside practicing, packed, absolutely packed. Watching him, may have a point to prove.
Possibly,
back in America.
I mean, he's won. Sorry, mate. He's won 14 of his last 15 matches in this tournament, having really struggled at it before that. But yeah, you're right. That's something I hadn't considered. Actually, he might feel like he has a point to prove. I don't think. If you're Novak Djokovic, have you got much to prove anymore? I don't know. Not so sure. Possibly, yeah. He might be thinking, well, Alcaraz did me at Wimbledon. I want to, show who is the number one at the minute. He might be thinking like that. At his age, I would think he's not going to be desperate to win this tournament. He'll be desperate to win the US Open, but I'm not sure he'll be desperate to win this.
That's the outright market. Head to the Bet Rivers website. Hopefully, they'll still be up when this market goes live. Obviously, there's going to be some play. There's a women's tournament as well here as well. So you can check out the odds on there. I've gone for a couple of picks on the women's market. I've gone for Belinda Bencic. She has got a slight worry about her ankle, but she's 50-1 in a quite easy second section. In the bottom half of the draw, I've gone for Madison Keys. So if you want to check out the Bet Rivers website there and you haven't placed a wager on those, you can do now. Let's have a look at the matches. Second round is starting tomorrow. What's the weather conditions going to be like tomorrow? You say it's going to be a little bit warm, a little bit hotter, it's a little bit better for what everyone, and hopefully we get a full day's action.
For Wednesday,
Yeah.
I think Sunday is going to be the only day that it goes over 30 degrees. I think like 31, 32 on Sunday. I think Wednesday to Saturday, it's going to be it's going to get progressively warmer, but only it's going to go up from sort of 25, 26, 28 up to about sort of 29. So not blindingly hot, but the weather's definitely going to get better. So as I say, conditions I would expect to be a bit quicker. As the week goes on, they should get quicker.
So the first game we're going to talk about is Carlos Alcaraz, the number 1 seed. The world number 1, looking to, if he gets to the final here, he's guaranteed the number 1 seed at Flushing Meadow in 2 weeks' time. I'll be flying out in 2 weeks' time. Looking forward to that. And if any of you are out there in America, in New York at the tennis, hit myself or Sean up, grab a beer, and maybe have a little bit of watch a bit of tennis action together as well. So Carlos Alcaraz is the favourite here. He's up against Jordan Thompson, a proven player, someone who's come through qualifying here pretty well. Big server, does well on grass, obviously. But Carlos Alcaraz is an overwhelmingly heavy favourite, minus 1,115. Jordan Thompson is plus 700. You've got to put $1,115 to win $100. The spread here is 5.5. Alcaraz minus 5.5 at minus 104. Jordan Thompson, the Aussie, getting the 5.5 is minus 122. And the total here, now I think this is very low. I don't know. I don't know what Sean is going to pick. I've got no idea. But 19.5 here on the total. When you consider that Alcaraz isn't playing well, his total come over against over 19.5 against Tommy Paul in the quarterfinals of Toronto. It come over against Hurkacz. It come over against Shelton. Come over against Coric. It also come over against Goffin and Djokovic. So his last 6 matches have gone over here. 19.5 does seem low to me when you consider Thompson's beat Isner, Hustler, and Muller to reach his stage so far.
You know what I've got written down here?
Under.
Just says lean over 19.5 games. So, yeah, I mean, I don't like taking Alcaraz on with somebody like Thompson generally, but in this sort of situation, it's his first match. The conditions are very different, as I said, between Toronto and Cincinnati. And it's a new surface for everybody. It's not new for Thompson, because, as you say, he's played several matches on it already. He has beaten a couple of top 5 ranked opponents in his career, Jordan Thompson. He's 2-5 win-loss. Beat Andy Murray at Queen's Club. I think, if I remember rightly, Andy Murray was number 1 in the world at that point. He also beat Tsitsipas at Indian Wells when I was there earlier on this season. I mean, Tsitsipas was injured then, to be fair, but it's not a bad record. He gave Djokovic a decent match at Wimbledon. A lot of people will probably remember that match. The night match, I think it's a schedule for later on tonight. Actually, this one, I think it will favour Alcaraz. Obviously, the night match, the slower conditions. You would have thought that would favour him. That's what kind of puts me off betting it, really. He started pretty well in Cincinnati last year. Alcaraz beat Mackenzie McDonald in straight sets in his first match. Ended up making the quarterfinals. I think we will see an improvement from Alcaraz. I think he should realise that last week wasn't really good enough. So I would expect an improvement. I would perhaps expect him to hit the ground running. But as you say, that over total games line is pretty short, considering it's a first match in very new conditions. That would be my lean as well. The over games 19.5. Yeah.
Yeah, it does seem very low to me. Alcaraz is not winning matches at the moment by the same levels that we saw earlier on the season. He may be a little bit tired. There might be something about him, but I think 19.5 there is a definite overplay. Let's move on to the next match. And you mentioned it on the podcast on Sunday. Felix Auger-Aliassime, after his disappointment last week, he thought that he might bounce back, and he did. He bounced back in some great style. A much-needed win for the Canadian over Berrettini. Where does that put Berrettini? What do we look into that result? But anyway, Auger-Aliassime is up against the Frenchman. We got Adrian Mannarino, and this match is tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Auger-Aliassime was a minus $2 favourite, but there has been money for Mannarino. Auger-Aliassime now is minus 167. Mannarino is plus 135 from an original opening line of plus 155. The spread here is 2.5. The total is 22.5. Mannarino obviously disappointed us because he beat our pick, Richard Gasquet, in the first round, and he ended a losing run himself, where he lost the second round at Wimbledon and the first round in Toronto against Tara Daniel. Felix Auger-Aliassime, where does he go from here? Does he? Is that Berrettini wing thinks to himself that? Listen, I'm back. I'm going playing well again. I should beat Mannarino, or does he think to himself, I've never been in this position for a few weeks. I've got one win, but the market at the moment is going for the Frenchman here at plus 155 into plus 135.
I think you're a brave man if you're betting on this match. I mean, I did say, didn't I, that I was tempted by the 2.75 plus 175, I think it was, a Bet Rivers, that Felix would beat Berrettini. Obviously didn't bet it, so obviously it won. It was just a feel, though. There was no real basis for me other than Felix can't continue to be this bad that would have led me to bet that match. But I did say Berrettini is very, very short in price. It's not like he's been doing, he's not played that much this season himself. So it's very difficult for me to see how he could be in that short. Felix was 100 to 1. We bet Rivers outright at the start of this tournament. He's now down to 20 to win it. And, that wouldn't surprise me because we've seen that a lot lately, haven't we? Dan Evans coming from absolutely nowhere. Last week, Davidovich Fokina came from absolutely nowhere to make the semi-finals. Both come in with absolutely rotten form. Similar situation to how Felix has come into this one. I think this match is difficult. I mean, if we look at Felix's record against left-handers, it's pretty decent, actually. It's 59. It's the same as his right-handers record, actually, more or less. 59% win rate at main level. It's 60% against right-handers, so more or less exactly the same. Felix, he'll be fresh. He's only played 27 matches this season. Mannarino's played almost double at 50. So from that point of view, you would think this stage of the season, Felix would obviously be champion at the bit, I would have thought, to be playing matches before the US Open, and just to prove to everybody, that he's still a decent player. His record in Cincy is good. 7-4 win-loss. Mannarino not so good. 6-7 win-loss. I was expecting Gasquet to beat Mannarino. I fancied Gasquet at the prices, but it didn't happen. Didn't have a great day, Gasquet. The other thing with Mannarino to bear in mind, he's got points to defend next week in Winston-Salem, where he's defending champion. So he might have one eye on that. That's a possibility. I looked at Felix's record, actually, when he's been sort of roughly this price range. Main level, win-loss, in decimal in the price range between 1.41 and 1.59. That's minus 244 and minus 169 in American. He's got a 67% win rate. And if you assume that an average price of all those matches, it's basically break even. 33 wins, 16 losses. And if you backed him in each one, you'd pretty much have your money back. So I think this is a difficult one to have any real opinion on, because we don't know if Felix is just going to revert back to his previous, frankly, awful form after one good match. That's possible. Or the other side of the coin is he could just use this as a springboard and go on and make the final like Evans did and Davidovich Fokina nearly did. But I don't think I can have an opinion on it because, it could go either way, this one. I think it's difficult. This is the only one I haven't got really much of an opinion on, to be honest.
Very difficult match, but the Bet Rivers betting public have decided they want to be with Adrian Mannarino, and he's gone from plus 155 to plus 135. Do you agree with them? Is it a public play, or do you want to get with Felix? You think that win he had yesterday against Berrettini galvanizes him and he comes on with a run here? Remember, if you have a bet on these matches, you can watch it live on your tablet or your laptop by streaming the match on the Bet Rivers website. So you can watch it from the comfort of your own home, in the car, on the way to work, on your lunch break, whichever you want to do, you can watch the match then. It's a late match, this one. It's, what did I say the time was? The time is on this match is 7 p.m. Eastern time. So home, have your dinner, sit back, watch the match. Mannarino, Felix Auger-Aliassime. But for us, it's a fade. We're not going to get involved in the match. Next match we're going to talk about Jannik Sinner. Just won his first ATP Tour 1000 event, a player that we've spoken about numerous times over the years. I'm a huge, huge fan, Sinner fan. I think he's the only player I believe has got the capability to go with Alcaraz over the next few years. I think we all know he needs to beef up. But the confidence he must take from winning last week in Toronto, but also he's going to be exhausted from that as well. He's playing Zuzan Lajovic, who wants it very slow. No surprise yesterday he won in slow conditions. But Sinner here is a heavy favourite, minus 910. Lajovic is $6. The spread here is 5.5. Sinner giving up 5.5 is plus 102. Lajovic is minus 130. 5.5. The total here is 19.5 again, potentially another over. That's minus 127. Never met before. Lajovic has done well, though. He's come through 2 qualifying matches here, beating decent players, and he beat a good opponent in Serendula in the first round here. The conditions were his to his liking, though, yesterday. Obviously wet. It's going to be a little bit warmer today, tomorrow, a little bit quicker. This match is tomorrow, not this evening. But Sinner, minus 910, given that he's going to be on a high after winning the 1,000 last week. Where do you make Sinner now? I mean, his form at the moment is pretty good. He's semi-final at Wimbledon, winner in Toronto. He's got to take the next level now, though, hasn't he?
Yeah, it's kind of annoying, isn't it? We backed him to win Indian Wells and Miami, Masters 1000 hard courts, and he ended up winning the next one, the one after, which admittedly was 3 or 4 months after. But that's how it goes. We couldn't keep backing him, could we? I think this is a difficult one for Jannik Sinner. I think this could be the making of him, really. This Masters win. It's not many people, very very few players win a major without having previously won a Masters series. I think Del Potro did it, and I think Cilic did it, but I can't think of anybody off the top of my head else that's done it. You tend to have to win a Masters first. Normally, that's kind of how it is, and this could be the route for him. I mean, what concerned me against Djokovic at Wimbledon was how many chances he had and how poor he was in the big points. That's not tennis. That's mental. That's not a lack of ability or shot choice or anything like that. It's just doesn't have the mental, or hasn't yet had that mental strength in those big moments against the big players on the biggest of stages. Maybe this Masters title will be the springboard for him to go on and achieve that. Who knows? But I think this is a very, very quick turnaround, this Lajovic match. If we look at what he did when he won his previous biggest title, which was at Washington, D.C., the 500, he then went to Canada 3 days later and lost in straight sets to James Duckworth. So now he's got exactly the same time frame, 3 days from winning what's now his biggest title, to playing an opponent you would expect him to beat, like Duckworth, in Lajovic. But as you said, Lajovic played very well to beat Cerundolo. He has not dropped a set yet, and he's played Jason Kubler and Rinky Hijikata, 2 more than competent hardcourt players. Lajovic is a frustrating one, isn't he? We backed him in Kitzbühel, and he had a stinker of a schedule. He was put out on one of the outside courts at about 9:30 at night in the rain, and he didn't fancy it. But you're right. I think the slower conditions probably have helped him through qualies and through the first round. But I still think this is a big ask for Sinner to come here and win it easily, or win it at all, really. Lajovic is the one that's in tune with the conditions. Sinner's obviously not played in this tournament on this surface, coming straight from Canada. I'm tempted to back Lajovic here at 6-1 with Bet Rivers. I think that's the one of the bets that would interest me. I think that's, if you are having a big prize punt, I think that's probably the one. Or over 9.5 games in set 1, which is actually plus money. 2.1 plus 110, that is. To ask him to come here, totally different conditions, and win the first set 6-love, 6-1, 6-2, or 6-3 against a guy that he's never played before, and who's much sharper in those particular conditions. I think that's difficult. Or you could look at it the other way and say, "Oh, Sinner's on a high now. He's just going to breeze through." I'm not so sure. He's let us down so many times with his conditioning, his fitness, injuries, all that stuff. I would be worried about this turnaround for Sinner. As I say, I'm tempted with Lajovic in some way or another.
Lajovic, a big call from Sean Calvert there at $6 to upset the odds. When you look at players, I know people have watched your show and you look at your strategies and look at stuff that we do here on Game Bet Match. You do like to fade people who've had a big week the week before, don't you? And I mean, it was pretty evident in the first round matches you've had here. Jannik Sinner up against Lajovic here, it would probably be priced up exactly the same if it was the week before. The fact that he's won the tournament, it must play part of your strategic thinking that they're a fade.
Yeah, I think so. I think you could look at it totally the opposite way and say, he's buzzing, he's gonna. Yes, he is, probably, depending on what the celebrations were like. He doesn't strike me as a much of a party guy. No. I might have that totally wrong. I don't know him personally, but he's just won a Masters 1000 after numerous near misses. He's got to have been celebrating in some way, shape, or form. Even if he wasn't, it depends on the player. I think if you're looking at Sinner in particular, who's consistently over the years let us down, himself down, in a manner of speaking, with the injuries that have just cropped up over and over and over again once he's played a lot of tennis. If it was someone more robust, maybe I'd be thinking, well, yeah, he can carry on. But, there's that. And the conditions are very different from here. It's, 238 meters of altitude here. It's a different surface, different weather, all the rest of it. I think if you're backing Sinner at a short price in this match, it's a hell of a gamble considering what he did last time he won a big title 3 days later.
We definitely think he's more saint than sinner, don't we? That's why I think the parties won't be as crazy as they would be.
You never know. It's always the quiet ones you got to watch, isn't it?
And I've been out of you on the Reaper Barn. I know that for definite. So we know that for sure.
I was very well behaved.
I know you were.
Till Sweet Caroline came on.
That's good. I like the way that people are tweeting Sweet Caroline to you and giving you stuff on there. Have you noticed on the Instagram account the every time you have a
still
chat,
give me grief about that?
Sweet Caroline on behind you. Yes, it's your theme tune now. It's your walk-on music at the French Open. So if you come up to Shawnee, you come to Manhattan, or you go to Flushing Meadow, you got to come up to him and play a bit of Sweet Caroline. He'll appreciate.
If anyone comes up to me and starts singing it, they're in big trouble. That's all I can say.
Oh, you gotta relax, man. You gotta relax. Anyway, let's move on to the final match, and this is probably the most intriguing match of the whole day. Actually, this is tomorrow. We only know 4 matches as we stand now while we're recording this, and it's Stefanos Tsitsipas -360, a recent winner in Mexico, up against Ben Shelton, who's finally won a tennis match against Christopher Eubanks. Christopher Eubanks, after Wimbledon, is completely on a downward spiral, on Ben Shelton, after a shaky start, capitalised and got the win done there. Stefanos Tsitsipas is -360. Ben Shelton is +275 in this one. Before we give you some of the props for the match, give us your thoughts on this match, Sean.
I think Shelton's starting to get back to better form now. He showed, he played up pretty well against Alcaraz, a narrowish loss there, but started to look a bit better. Now he's beaten Eubanks again. That one match, obviously, in these new conditions will certainly help Shelton. Just looks like he's getting a bit over that sort of poor spell of form that he's had. But there's so many stats in this match that sort of scream out overs or tie breaks to me. I mean, I can list them all. It might take me about 10 minutes, but I've got quite a few stats there. Do you want me to go through them?
Yeah, of course.
All right. So Tsitsipas has played a tie break in 8 of his 14 completed matches in Cincinnati. It would have been one more, but Riley Opelka retired when he was serving at 5-6 in one of the matches. I remember it clearly because I had tie break in the first set, and it was 5-6. Opelka was about to serve, and he called it a day. So that was a little
another loss that stays in the Calvert memory bank.
I remember it distinctly. I remember he just sort of started limping, and I just thought, oh God, here we go. And he just called it a day at 5-6. He was obviously going to hold for 6-all, but there we are. So 8 out of 14 completed matches he's played a tiebreak. That's 57%, which if you go in just on maths, tiebreak played should be 1.75 -133. We're getting 1.89 with Bet Rivers, which is -112. So just on that little stat, obviously value. But Tsitsipas against left-handers on all surfaces, 9 of his last 12 have featured a tiebreak, so 75%. That includes clay. Tsitsipas in 2023 away from clay holds 91% of the time, only breaks 16.8% of the time, wins only 33% of return points, which is just 2% more than Shelton wins. And in his last 10 matches against left-handers, he's only broken serve 15% of the time. Now, Tsitsipas, in best of 3 set matches away from clay in his career, has not got a great record, 6-10 win-loss. But importantly, 11 of the 15 of those completed matches have featured a tiebreak. So there's a lot of evidence here to suggest that over games and a tiebreak are the markets that you want to be really looking at here. Tsitsipas again last week. We were lucky last week with him, weren't we? Did we have over 22.5 against Monfils, I think, last week, didn't we? Monfils won it in straight sets. So again, it was the right play, I think, to try and oppose Tsitsipas in one way or another in that match. This isn't really about opposing him as such as to take advantage of the fact that he doesn't break serve very often. So I've taken tie break played here at 1.89, as I say, -112. That is with Bet Rivers.
It's actually moved now. It's over a tie break in the match is -122. Tie break in the first set is +215. Look at total games here. It's 22.5, which is over. at -125. So the games angle is definitely the way to approach it in the Tsitsipas v Ben Shelton match, which we don't know the order of play yet. It'll be tomorrow, and you'll see that available on the Bet Rivers website when we do know. So there's 2 matches later on this evening. Carlos Alcaraz against Jordan Thompson. I did say earlier that it was tomorrow. It's actually tonight. And Adrian Mannarino against Felix Auger-Aliassime. And the 2 matches tomorrow, Yannick Sinner against Lajovic and Ben Shelton against Tsitsipas. We also have 2 other plays that we haven't played yet from the podcast on Sunday, which later today. So Sean, just give us our official pick. Just the one official pick for us today.
Yeah, just the one, the tiebreak played in the Tsitsipas match, yeah.
The tiebreak played, and that has actually moved a little bit now. So head to the BetRivers website. It's currently minus, wherever I want to find it, through now, -122. So a tiebreak -122.
What's that in decimal?
Around about 1.8.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Still between 1.2 and 1.8. So 5 to 6 and 4 to 5.
Okay.
So that is the latest edition here. Tuesday's matches at Cincinnati. We're previewing the late games on Tuesday and the early games on Wednesday. Just a couple of things here. We want you to ask you some questions. So if anyone has any questions for myself or Sean, any strategy on betting, anything that you think you want to hear us to talk, this is a part of the show we open up to you. You can follow us on our YouTube channel, which is the Betting Weekly Studios. There's a lot of stuff going on there, a lot of new subscribers. But if you're new to tennis betting and you want to know more and you want to know a little bit more about strategies, you want to know anything about tennis or ways, we talk about there, myself and Sean were speaking there about players who come from the week before and, they're on a high and they come on a low, come straight back, they might celebrate little strategies that we've used over the years. Now, the first question we have, Sean, is from one of our subscribers. It's John from Alabama, believe it or not, Alabama. He says that you mentioned quite a bit about service points won and return points won. And you give it a rating. Can you just explain the theory you use on that?
Yeah, I mean, in tennis betting, stats are really your friend. You've got so many stats to choose from, and I think the skill is kind of applying them or trying to apply them to the right situation. Stats, they can be sometimes misleading, so you do have to be kind of careful with the numbers that you're picking up. But what I've just done there. Let me think of a match where I just actually talked about the service points won, return points won, totals. I mean, let's have a look. I mean, this Tsitsipas one, for example. If you're winning just over sort of 30, 31, 30% of return points, that's pretty low. And it suggests that you're struggling to break serve. That then transposes into the next stat, which is how often you break serve. As I said, he's only broken 15% of the time against left-handers, which isn't great. The service points won and return points won total. If it's generally speaking, it's very woolly. But if it's less than 100, obviously that isn't a great level. But it depends on who's playing. If a top guy like Tsitsipas earlier in the season, his total was something like 100, 101, 102 at some point, which is not really befitting of a top 5 player. You would expect them to be at least 105, 106, up to sort of 108, 110, depending on the situation. If you can get hold of those stats, I get them from this particular tennis program that I use that I've talked about before. It's all on there, and it's straightforward. You can take them off, and it can help you in a 50-50 match as well. If you can just do it straight. If you look at the totals of one guy against another guy on that particular surface, if one's got higher total than the other, and he's a dog, then that immediately makes you think, well, okay, that's worth further investigation. And it can help you out, but there's tons of other stats as well. I mean, even the ATP site's got loads of stats on there in terms of service strengths and weaknesses, strengths and weaknesses on big points. Tennis is a great sport for stats. It's obviously one-on-one. It's a lot easier to figure out stats than it is in, say, football, for example. But yeah, that's kind of how I do it. But you do have to apply it to the right situation. That's kind of where the bit of experience comes in.
Yeah, experience is everything, and there's 30 years of experience from myself and Shorty on tennis betting. I'm old school. I just look at the price, think it's the wrong price. I have a rough idea what I think the price should be and bet the price.
So do I, but I the only difference between what you do and what I do then is I would look at the price exactly the same and immediately think that can't be right, or yeah, that's dodgy. So I would then go and I would then delve into the stats to then see if that backs up my theory. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes I've thought, Oh, that's a great, that price can't be right. And then I've looked into the stats and thought, actually, yeah, probably is right. So that's where the stats can help you as well.
So there you have it. If you've got any other questions like that, any trading strategies, anything you want to ask us, you can ask us here. You can give us a tweet on both of our handles. It's Sean Calvert and Sean at Sean Calvert 1, isn't it? Sean, your handle, Twitter handle?
Yeah, Twitter. Yeah.
I tweet you so many times. I tag you into. I couldn't remember. I should be able to remember that. And mine is at Seeley_Nigel. And obviously, you can tweet us at the Because We Win handle on Twitter. Make sure you follow that as well, and our Because We Win Instagram page. Keep downloading the podcast, Betting Weekly Game Bet Match. The US Open is fast approaching. We want to be high up the charts across the world, in America, Canada, Nigeria, very high in Nigeria. You're very popular in Nigeria, Sean. I know that. And
good to know.
Good to know. We can go to Lagos. It would be like Beatlemania if we landed there. We'd be absolutely fine.
Might be a while before there's a tournament there.
Well, you never know. And you obviously can subscribe to the YouTube channel. As I said there, it's the Betting Weekly Studios. Lots of new content on there. And what a brilliant week from the soccer handicappers. I mean, unbelievable. Every single one of them in profit. I think we gave 10 picks, 8 winners, 1 push, 1 loser. So the first week of the soccer season has gone absolutely fantastic here on Because We Win, the home of some of the best sports betting content you will see from any European handicappers here. If you're following this stateside, this is the place you want to be for European sport. Sean, thank you very much for joining me. I know it's a bit of a long one today, but appreciate your time. And we'll be back tomorrow looking at some more second round matches. Good luck with your bets, and hopefully we cash some tickets on the first round, because obviously the rain delay yesterday affected that. So we've got some first round matches today, and we've got a pick there on the second round, Tsitsipas and Shelton tomorrow. Good luck with your bets. Take care. Speak to you tomorrow.